Floods, pieces of the wall used as weapons. Those are some of the things impacting inmates and workers inside the Fulton County Jail. Thanks for joining us here at 11. I'm Blair Miller.
And I'm Carly Barnett. Tonight, action to fix those and other issues now approved. Atlanta News First anchor Victor Williams is live outside of the jail tonight, now preparing for an influx of cash to renovate this aging facility. Victor.
Yeah, that's right, Carly. And anyone who has stepped foot inside of the Fulton County Jail will tell you that these renovations are well needed. Even the Fulton County commissioners believe the same thing, unanimously voting to approve $1.3 billion in funding. But as you're about to see, some still believe that that's not enough.
I think we're moving in the right direction.
Fulton County Board of Commissioners Chairman Rob Pitts on the incoming $1.3 billion renovation to the Fulton County Jail and the funding recently approved to make the upgrades happen.
That money will be used to renovate Rice Street and to build a separate, on the same footprint though, freestanding medical facility.
70% of detainees at the facility have either a mental health or substance abuse problem, but the issues have been continuous, with the most recent one being major flooding in January, an extremely expensive fix alone. Yet the Fulton County Sheriff's Office says a lot more should be done. The department sent over the following statement, which reads in part, quote, "Our position remains unchanged. Renovating 901 Rice Street is not the optimal solution. A full replacement is necessary to truly meet the demands of modern inmate resident care." A full replacement of the jail was estimated to have been closer to $2 billion. Instead, commissioners approved a plan to make upgrades to the existing jail, which the sheriff has called, quote, "putting a Band-Aid on open heart surgery." The same concern echoed by Commissioner Marvin Arrington Jr. during Wednesday's discussion before the vote to finance the upgrades.
We've seen what has happened to the areas that we have recently renovated. As soon as we renovated, they burned it, and then they flooded it. That facility doesn't have a direct supervision model. Will the new special use facility have a direct supervision model?
Yes, sir. That's the plan.
Now, construction is set to begin in 2028, but 2020 or 2031, I should say, is when the jail is expected to reopen. Renovations, however, could last longer, we're told. Reporting live tonight right in front of the Fulton County Jail, Victor Williams, Atlanta News First.